it's very important to remain connected with the issues that you had in the manifestos, because these are promises you have made. These promises are pre and post-election. And if you look at many of the manifestos, I am from ODM and in the Azimio coalition, these manifestos over time change but are not very variant. If you look at all manifestos across the form, they will be looking at economic problems, social problems, and political problems, but creating a very clear agenda about how to address those problems. And after elections, you're either in government or you're in opposition. You still have a promise that you've made to those people. And therefore, in constructing your policy, you're looking at how to address the issues that you already talked about in your manifestos. How are you going to address them? What are you going to do about them? Because policies look at a particular problem and how to address that problem. And we have a variant of many problems. As you know, in Azibia, we have the 10-point agenda. So we're looking at Baba Care, we're looking at health, we're looking at insurance, we're looking at the whole of issue of youth and employment in investment. We're looking at the issue of agriculture and how this can be confounded and people can work on it. We're looking at the issues of ensuring that everybody works together, moves together. We're looking at the issues of ensuring that counties become hubs of production and reproduction. Because you know very well, especially under Azimio and hinging on the coalition and devolution, because especially under NASA, we had the whole issue about devolution. What are we talking about? We're talking about bringing down these resources back to the counties and back to the people. So addressing all this problem in a very concise way is the beginning of looking at policy. But as you might know, there are so many variant issues. And therefore, policy allows us to have a very macroscopic approach of understanding a problem. We've got to look at the problem, identify what that problem is, come up with what we might want to call a problem statement of sorts, so that we can be able to see how to go about it, devise policy recommendations about how to solve that problem, and then enact that policy. So it's just a way of ensuring that we don't just have manifestos, that we can actually look at this manifesto and say, for example, if we're looking at a key issue, like, for example, the cost of high living, how are we going to address it? Are we going to address it through agricultural micro-businesses, for example? Are we going to address it from digital economies and hubs? Are we going to address, if it's an issue of education, how are we going to address it? Are we going to address it with free primary education? And you can see, therefore, the tilts that happen. For example, at certain seasons, we had free primary education or free education right up to secondary. If we look at fees, for example, for the university, how do you control the fees over time? And these policy positions sometimes shift and change and create some disability. So I think policy is meant to be a guiding anchor and a commitment, but you've broken it down to understand what is the problem. For example, if we're looking at agribusiness, we're saying, what is the problem? Is the problem the infrastructure? Is the problem the information? Is the problem technology? Our farmers not, for example, having enough technology? How do we deal that? And then we come up with a mechanism of ensuring that that technology can reach the farmer. If we're looking at interconnectedness between one industry and another, for example, in the field of education, we're looking at how, for example, can industry be looped with educational institutions like TVETs, for example, so that you're looking at young, entrepreneurial, young people who have skills. How do you make the skills happen? Because that is addressing the cost of living. Because then, inadvertently, it's addressing employment. So it's a question of connecting all these and coming up with a very comprehensive way of doing it. And we're talking about comprehensive way, then we're talking about the policy brief. A policy brief is just one pager, probably 2 pages, about how exactly to address that problem. So of course, first you must be able to identify the problem, which has been well identified in our manifestos, and then come it up with a way to address in a very concise, informed way. And that is the policy, coming up with the policy, and with that also policy briefs as a way to spotlight exactly what you want to do and how you want to do it.